All right, everybody, let's start this trip down the road with full disclosure. Are you ready? I think if you joined us yesterday, I got a couple stitches in my wrist. I go to the dermatologist every year, and she does the fry thing, so I got a couple blisters here and there as well. But have grandkids. Just have grandkids. I was looking for Band-Aids today. Sue's not home, and so what there was little princesses. I've got one grandson out of 6 grandkids, and then there's a camouflage one. So just keep that in mind when you give me crap about what's Heitkamp's wearing. So that being said, we're going to bring in Corey Mock, state representative from Grand Forks. Corey, good to have you coming down the road with us.
It's great to join you, Joel. Nice Band-Aid, by the way.
You're going to get old and you're going to have grandkids. Know that. And this kind of
for what it's worth, I've got toddlers. I don't need grandkids. We've got more frozen things around the house, or lunch boxes, or Disney. If any paramedic needs to be restocked, we'll make sure that they have a smile on their face when they show up to a scene. So
once you have kids, you should have. A person should have invested in plastic. All the junk you buy, And then what you find out, and you will find out if you haven't already, is if it disappears, they don't know. They really don't. If all of a sudden it finds itself in the dumpster or the burn pit, they don't know about it. So there's my official advice, and I'm going to give
It's like you've been in our house the last week.
Representative Mock, I want to talk to you a little bit later on about the session and how that went for you, and how that went from the perspective of a town with a university in it. But right now I'd like to talk to you about the empty buildings that are out there. You are on the Appropriations Committee, and you chair during the interim the Legislative IT Committee. So you're in there. I mean, you're right there when this discussion is had, and you and I both know that there's a lot of leased buildings out there without people in them. And the AP reported that it's over right up to $3 million that the state is spending on space we don't have to. So it begs the question, what's going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, quick history on this. Back in, I want to say about 2015, the state we contracted with some private developers to have a new space for our information technology department in North Bismarck, roughly 85,000 square feet, 10-year lease. It started off as a fantastic building. There were some structural issues. The landlords, the owners came back and said, hey, we're going to take care of it. We're going to accommodate all of the employees. They're going to be housed in different agencies. We will pay that rent, pay for the moving, everything. And that goes back to about, I want to say it was about 2018, 2019 or so when they were moved out of the building and the building was in major renovation. So when we met last interim, the conversations we were having was, what's the status of the building renovation? When will it be occupied, et cetera? We felt pretty comfortable going forward. Well, 2020 hit, and I think everyone remembers what it was like back in March of last year when we went from showing up to work on Monday morning at 8 a.m. to stay at home for who knows how long. And now that's where we are. Now that the building has been renovated and is ready for occupancy, most everyone in ITD has been working from home and continues to work from home. So the building is able to be occupied, but it is, with the exception of about a dozen or so employees, is fairly vacant, and staff are working from home, continue to do their operations from either a remote office or from their home office. And that's the current reality, at least as it seems, for at least the next 2 years.
So, Representative Mock, how long, how much does it cost? Is it close in $3 million? And is this something that IT can basically say, look, we need to get out of this lease?
Well, I don't know the exact figures. I think it's the numbers that the Associated Press put forward, the $3 million, sounds about right for this one. And I should also mention that this is not a unique situation to just ITD. I think ITD is the largest that remains in a remote work environment to this day, but every agency had this to some extent. I don't know. There was no change in their appropriation. I think the biggest thought that the Appropriations Committee had is that we do not know what the new reality, the new normal, is going to look like. We did not want to overcorrect and assume that we're going to be in a completely or mostly work from home work environment forever. So we did not want to essentially evacuate every office building and say, congratulations, now you have a home office. That's where you're expected to do your job. So we kind of went forward on the assumption that offices will remain the same. Agencies have that flexibility if they need employees to work from home, if they want to come in. Our hope is that they're able to strike that balance. There's always going to be a place and a need for having a physical workplace. The question is how are we using that space, and what is the most appropriate way for that to be funded? Do we need to have 85,000 square feet for ITD, or is that something that in the next 2 years or 4 years that they come back and say, we maybe only need half or a third of it, and we can rent that out to someone else and use that space more effectively? But we're still a little early in the pandemic to know what the new normal will look like. It's difficult for us to pay rent for a building that's not being used, but there's a lot more that we're going to have to look into over the next 2 years to make sure that we're making good, financially sound decisions when it comes to workplace environment.
Who owns it?
It's privately owned. The developers, it's leased by the state of North Dakota. I don't know the name of the owners or the holding company, but it is privately held and leased to the state of North Dakota.
What would you say to that taxpayer that looks you in the eye and says if there's any agency that knows whether or not they can work from home, it should be ITD? That agency is the one that brings the type of automation to you as the legislature and the legislative branch that puts you in a position where, hey, we are on the cutting edge. So they're the ones that should know whether or not they can work from home. What do you say to that taxpayer?
Well, I think if you were to ask the leadership of ITD, they think that we're going to see more work from home in their department than not. I don't think they see the need of an 85,000 square foot office building for their department. I think the legislature's reluctance is, generally speaking, but including ITD, is to not sever these leases without doing a little bit more homework onto it. At least know how much space do we actually need. So this is one of those unfortunate elements of meeting biannually. We've got to make these decisions in 4 months and base it up that's going to affect us for the next 24. And unfortunately, it would be great if we had more information, could come back, say, later this year, early next year, and make a better, more informed decision so that we're not either vacating a lease and then having to figure out where we're going to house employees that need a physical work environment, or the alternative of getting everyone back to work, finding out that it's it's not as efficient, and we could have more flexibility in a work environment. So ITD is likely going to have more of a hybrid model than most agencies. Most of their employees are accessed from a computer terminal, by phone, by email, by chat, and they can do that whether it's in a cubicle farm in North Bismarck, or they can do it from their home office in Wyndmere, wherever their work environment is. And I think you're going to see us encourage agency heads to study their workplace needs. And then we also need to look into how we fund work from home, knowing that employees are now bearing an additional cost that was normally paid by the agency. So I'm sure there's going to be a request for either stipends or other HR type evaluations if we're going to see a formal hybrid model implemented in the future years.
But it has to be cheaper. My wife...
It has to be.
Yeah. My wife rented office space in the business that she's in Fargo, and when all of the COVID hit, she took that. And one thing about it, you find out how hard some workers work. If you can tell whether or not they're working hard from home or not. And I realize not everyone's built to work at home or can discipline themselves to do that. But the money that she saved in her budget is significant. And so, as a taxpayer, when the decision is made by the state, if you've got an agency like ITD that is saying, look, we don't need this much space. We're in a place where more and more people can work from home. This is working. And the state itself, through legislative council, through whoever, is saying, all right, we don't know yet whether or not we need this space, and the agency itself said you don't. As a taxpayer, you're going to end up wondering why. Why the government itself is pushing to keep the space and not get out of the lease. Which, Corey, that would make me really want to know who owns the building.
Right. Well, like I said, it's, this is not the only example. I mean, there are dozens of privately owned spaces that are leased by the state of North Dakota that, to my knowledge, most of them are continuing to be leased by the state. I know of at least a couple of exceptions. For example, Highway Patrol recently moved their regional offices, either they have or they will be, from Bismarck and Fargo into the state-owned DOT buildings. So there's some examples where they are moving and they're terminating their leases early and going to state-owned facilities. But there's still a lot of other facilities that are occupying and leasing privately owned buildings. I'm thinking of the Gold Seal building on the near the Capitol grounds. There's a bunch of office buildings just near the Capitol complex that are privately owned, home of Department of Health, Department of Environmental Quality, et cetera. So there are a lot more of these spaces out there. And I believe that this is a bigger conversation. It's one that I hope the legislature takes seriously. The part that I think that you drill in on is, why did we not end the lease now? You said $3 million, what we could have saved. The concern that we had, that I still have, is if we do anything too prematurely, we get rid of it. Yes, we save $3 million, but if it costs us $5 million to then come back and move everybody back into a new office building, if we overcorrected, I think people would be upset that we acted in haste. So I think this is, we're bit by the time, by the clock. I hate that we're spending money, but I do put the pressure on agency department heads that they take advantage of those spaces and make sure that it's not a stranded asset for the state and for taxpayers, that it is going to be used, and that they can use that as a pilot project to tell us in 2 years how much space they need and where is the best space, if it's going to be leased or owned, where those best spaces are located.
Have you or the legislature looked at the leases themselves? Is it hard to get out of those leases? And is this something where you could see a scenario where the Attorney General would have to be involved to negotiate or to get into advocate for those leases ending?
I haven't looked at the individual leases line by line, but I do know that Office of Management and Budget through the state of North Dakota requires every lease to have a clause in there that the lease, it could be a multi-year lease, but it's subject to legislative appropriation. So if the program ceases to exist, which is the intent, or if the funding simply is not there, that the agency can vacate their lease without penalty. It's complicated. It's a complicated dynamic for private landlords, business owners, property owners, if they're going to commit to a massive build out for a property to meet the needs of an agency over 10, 15, 20 years. But then there's that clause that can be enacted at any time if the legislature doesn't appropriate the funds. That private landowner, property owner, is now stuck with this expense that isn't going to be recouped. So there's that delicate balance, but there is a clause in every one of these contracts that does allow the agency out of the lease if the appropriations are not there. The Attorney General would likely have to weigh in, make sure that it's proper. If it's just us choosing not to have the lease, if that's good enough, or if it needs to be a program that's terminated or greatly modified. But the clauses are in those contracts, and the options are there.
State Representative Corey Mock. When we come back, I want to get a chance to get his take on how the legislative session went. There's all types of different districts. He represents a town that is heavily dependent on the University of North Dakota. How was higher ed treated? We'll find out when we come back and go down the road.
Howdy folks, it's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha. The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention, have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Elmiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
It's good to have you still going down the road with us. State Representative Corey Mock is with us. We talked about, the leases, and we talked about the money that could be saved in the state of North Dakota and how that's going to be looked into. But I want to get a chance to visit with Representative Mock now about the session, how the session went, because obviously there were three groups in the legislative session. You had the Democrats, you had the moderate Republicans, and then you had the far right-wing Republicans. And, to me, the far right-wing Republicans are playing things out during the interim that are pretty hard. And that's a topic for another day. But for now, I want to know how Representative Mock feels the swing has gone in that session. And here's why I'm asking. Because the Senate, I realize you serve in the House, and some of the hardest line policy decisions come out of the House. And then they went over to the Senate, and usually the Senate was that check and balance to it. I didn't see that this session. I saw the hardliners with the power in the state Senate, and I'm curious what your take was.
No, I think that's a pretty accurate and astute observation, Joel. It's there's a lot of ways I could answer this question, and probably each one will anger someone uniquely, but I'll try to be as non-cynical as possible. I mean, you're not wrong in the different groups. I mean, you've got Dems, moderate Republicans, and then you've got the far right, the Bastiat caucus, and the Senate has, it seems like forever, has insulated itself from those wild swings. It's more of an institutional chamber. That's where you have the senior, long-tenured members. There's not a lot of grandiose speeches on the floor. It's business. There's a job. The Senate just has a different personality than the House. And there's some people that serve that are better suited for one chamber than the other. It seems as though especially in the last session, the Senate has not been as insulated from those dynamics. You see more personality coming forward on floor speeches and in floor debate. You see more controversial amendments and legislation coming from the Senate that would, in previous sessions, would have originated in the House and likely been defeated on the Senate side. I don't know what to expect. And for us to come into a redistricting year, knowing that you're going to see some members that choose not to run again, some districts will change. You know this, and many of your viewers have watched this closely over decades. They know that this is a very unique time of the decade when the deck is reshuffled and you'll see a good number of new faces coming from different corners of the state. Right now, I feel like the Senate is beginning to mirror more of the House than it ever has, and that's going to make for very interesting coalitions for policy and strategy going forward.
You know, there's a lot of talk, and I've seen it firsthand. The Bostiak caucus going around the state trying to basically get rid of what you and I might consider practical or moderate Republicans, and so they're going to run their own strong right-wing candidates, and you know, so you've got Republican taking on Republican, which is the sign of a bitter supermajority. I get that, but you know, it seems as though that Bostiak caucus, when it came to cutting time, you know, the Luke Simons thing to me was, do you have power or not? In the end, there's one thing that you're so passionate about. Can you pull off? And in the House side, they weren't able to do that. I mean, they weren't. You know, the moderate Republicans in your caucus came together to point out exactly what and who Luke Simons was, and the Bastiats lost. They weren't able to keep that sexual harasser in the House. What was the mood after that? How much tension was in the air after that?
Oh, it was miserable. Joel, I've served. This is my 13th year. I just wrapped up my 7th session. I have, you know, I never take a vote personally, and you never should. You never judge any other member based on how they voted on one issue. You know, we're coworkers and we need to be professional. I voted to expel Representative Simons, former Representative Simons. I have never felt so miserable after being on the prevailing side as I did that day. Not that I felt that, you know, that was a bad vote, but we as an institution failed him in just as many ways as he let down the institution. And I say that because there had been years, over the years, numerous instances that were never addressed. And it led to a compounding effect that we had to take drastic action, which was essentially the equivalent of the political death penalty, when something should have been done a lot sooner to formally acknowledge that that is inappropriate behavior. I felt horrible, and I still do. The tension was palpable. You could feel the anger, the resentment, and that was unhealthy. I hope to God that was the one and only time that ever happens in any legislative assembly, but especially in North Dakota. It's hard to say if that is the case, but you know, we learned a lot this session on what we need to do, that we need to be better managers of ourselves. We need to enforce the rules. We need to check behavior. And when things do get out of hand, we can't just keep trying to address it behind closed doors and with saying, hey, you need to knock it off, and then hope that if something does happen, that it never rises to that level. So this was a very difficult session. That was one of the bigger examples, but you could definitely feel there was tension, there was frustration, and if there was ever a time when sine die couldn't have come soon enough, it was this year.
I don't doubt it. You know, and to me, that just shows the Bostiak caucus why they're running all over the state trying to get rid of fellow Republicans, because they woke up that day and they lost. Want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, I live in the Red River Valley. You live in the Red River Valley. You look at the University of North Dakota, you look at NDSU, you look at two universities that pride themselves on research and development. In the short period of time that we have left, why would the legislature stick their nose into research that has been awarded outside the state and is bringing in $2 for every dollar? Why did that happen?
Are you referring to
I'm referring to the case, you know, where Planned Parenthood, anything that Planned Parenthood does at NDSU, they legally can't do.
You know, and I feel bad for that, because it put the NDSU and a lot of others in a very complicated situation. They did it in a way that it was mostly to grab headlines. It was, I think that's just another example of how there are some issues that generate attention and will cause people to look at a specific issue that advances their needs. I mean, we didn't have any major legislation related to abortion or women's reproductive health. There was a couple bills that were put in on the House side, but nothing that really had traction. This was that one attempt to make higher education and to tie that to try to tie it to a controversial subject. It's unfortunate, and I think the governor did the right thing in vetoing the penalties. It was not germane to the idea. Research. This has been educational material that has been deployed by the university, developed under contract. It is not at all about abortion services. It is strictly about reproductive health and education.
It actually was about reducing abortion.
Right, exactly right. And if implemented properly, reduce the need and the demand for some of those difficult choices.
Representative Mock, I could do this all day. Thanks for your time, sir. Let's visit again.
As always,
soon.
Thanks, Joel.
You bet. When we come back, Dr. Daniel Aschheim is going to join us. The Council for Public Diplomacy. We're going to get his take on what is going on in Israel right now. Thanks.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks.
Welcome back to Down the Road. Dr. Daniel Aschheim joins us right now. He is, he currently serves as the Council for Public Diplomacy at the Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest. He was appointed to the Chicago-based post in September of 2020, and he comes to Chicago from West Africa, where he served as the Deputy Chief of Mission at the Israeli Embassy in Dakar, Senegal. Dr. Aschheim, that's quite a resume. People like you scare me, but good to have you coming down the road with me.
No need. Thank you for having me, Joe. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You know, before we get to questions and a conversation about this, I think what's happening in Israel right now is best described by you. You know, there's a lot of people that are listening to us right now that might not know what's going on. And so if you would, Dr. Aschheim, I'd appreciate if you would lay out what is going on in Israel.
First of all, Joe, please call me Daniel. So no need. I'm with the suit, but it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
So a bit about the situation. What's going on now? Actually, in the last week, Hamas, which is a terrorist Palestinian organization which controls de facto the Gaza Strip, decided to escalate and destabilize the situation by shooting rockets, thousands of rockets. There have been more than 3,500 rockets shot from the Gaza Strip aimed at killing civilian children, parents, women in Israel, in cities. My family lives in Jerusalem. Other ones live in Tel Aviv. They were in the middle of their night. They needed to run down to shelters. We have hundreds of thousands of Israelis all around the country who need to be in shelters because Hamas is trying to target civilians. And they're doing it because they're a fundamental Islamic organization that denies the existence of Israel. And once again and again and again, they're doing everything possible to kill as many Israelis as possible. And regardless whether they're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, all of them. And they're doing everything to destabilize the region. And what Israel is doing is retaliating, using practices its right for self-defense, as any sovereign country would do. I imagine the same thing. I imagine if North Dakota would get rockets coming in, they would also want a response to secure their citizens. So this is what Israel is doing now.
So if I could, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what it is being aimed at by Israel, because there seems to be an understanding and an agreement that there's a series of tunnels that Hamas has used and used its women and children as shelter for that. And so can you describe that to the people that are going down the road with us?
Yeah, so thanks, Joe. So what Hamas is actually doing here is two things, two war crimes at the same time. One, they're aiming their missiles and rockets at Israeli civilians. And two, they're using the population, the civilian population of the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians, as human shields. So what they're doing is they're taking Hamas military headquarters and intelligence headquarters and places where they throw and they shoot their rockets from in the midst of civilian dense populated areas, whether in schools, hospitals, where the press is, because they think that Israel will not respond. And it's true, Israel does everything possible when it needs to work against these terrorists. We differentiate between the civilian population and the terrorists. So we do everything in order to avoid civilian casualties. And they're taking advantage of it and exploiting it by placing their military headquarters in the midst of the civilian population.
So I want to talk to you, if I can, then, because you just pointed out that both actors in this war, in this conflict, describe it any way you want, but Hamas attacks Israel, Israel attacks back, and both of the firings end up in areas where there's civilians. And so the civilian casualties, from the outside looking in, what are you seeing, in terms of who's paying the price for this?
So I'd like to emphasize something, because first of all, every loss of life, civilian life, is a tragedy, a moral tragedy, a personal tragedy. Me as a human being, as an Israeli, as a Jew, every child, whether it's Palestinian, Jewish, Muslim, is a tragedy, if it's non-involved civilians. That has to be said. Saying that, there is a big difference in the moral way, the legal way, and the practical way, which the both sides. So you mentioned before, both sides, they attack and we attack back, but it's important to understand that when Hamas is working at finding the location with the most civilians and trying to shoot and kill them, whereas Israel is trying to find the place with the least civilians, and they're aiming at the Hamas terrorists. So of course, sometimes there are accidents, but the moral difference is who is aiming to kill civilians. Israel is using self-defense to look for those who are shooting at its citizens and to avoid civilian casualties.
So in terms of humanitarian aid, in terms of what can be done by individuals that are looking at both sides of this. You know, as citizens of the United States, what can I do, whether it's through my tax dollars, whether it's through different organizations, to try to, when the pieces need to be picked up here, how do we fix this?
So thank you, Joel. It's a very important question. How is it also related to every American citizen, a taxpayer sitting anywhere in the United States, in the Midwest and North Dakota, asks himself or herself what to do? And I think the best way to help both sides here, the Palestinians and Israelis, is going out, being very, very clearly, going out and say, Hamas took the Palestinian people hostages, and therefore it's depriving them from a good life. And Hamas had the choice when they took over with force the Gaza Strip after Israel left there. We left greenhouses, we left roads for them in 2005. They could be thriving today. It could have been a piece of heaven in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. Instead, it became a terrorist haven. So on the humanitarian level, of course, we would like to see any support possible to Israel and sending. I know that I hear a lot of Americans coming to tell me, we are together with you, we are supporting you. That's warming our hearts. But I think the most important thing would be saying out loud, for interest of stability and peace in the Middle East, for both Israelis, Palestinians, Christian, Muslims, or Jews, one needs to be very firm and clear. Hamas, a terrorist organization, took hostage the Palestinian people and are putting the civilian population, they are jeopardizing them and preventing them from becoming citizens of the world, flourishing, thriving economy, which it could be, and I hope and pray that it will be.
So how do you know when you won? How do you know when you've gone far enough? If you're Israel, which, you know, you and I both know has by far the stronger military, has the type of, well, they're the type of country where, you know what, you serve in the military in Israel. You have a basis on that. So, you know, the people get it, they understand it, they back each other when it comes to it, and I respect that immensely. But how do you know when to stop?
It's a very good question. I think the easiest solution to that question, because the situation is not an easy situation, it's a complex situation, there are many different angles to it and aspects. Nevertheless, the bottom line is, Israel did not start this conflict. Israel has the strongest army in the region, that's correct. And thank God for that. And if we would not have the Iron Dome system, which was developed together with our American friends, would have been with hundreds of Israeli civilian casualties from the Hamas rockets. This Iron Dome system takes away the rockets when they're in the sky. So it's a very expensive and sophisticated solution. Saying that, we want to reach a situation that Israeli citizens are not targeted and the Hamas terrorist organization does not wake up one day to decide and shoot rockets at us. This would be the time that we will say we are ceasing fire. Hamas started fire. They could have done a ceasefire very easily by stopping shooting at Israeli citizens. But as we are talking, there are tens of rockets thrown at Israeli civilian population areas. Now, when is it the long term, the long run? The long run, the way I see it and I want to see it, is a durable, sustainable, long-term peace between the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. And so as we saw now in the Abraham Accords, the recent Abraham Accords are historical agreements between Israel, United Arab Emirates, Sudan, Bahrain, Morocco, countries that Israel never had relationship with. These are Muslim Middle Eastern countries. And I hope the same future will be for the Palestinian people, but it's their call.
Dr. Aschheim, this has been very informative. I appreciate the conversation. Daniel, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much, Joe, for having me. Thank you for the listeners, and I hope to come again.
Yep. We're going to get a chance when we come back to visit with Terry Steinwand. He is retiring as head of North Dakota Game and Fish. Let's visit with him right after this as we continue down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Join us May 22nd as we take on the Northern Arizona Wranglers for Seniors Scholarship Night. Every student deserves an opportunity. Help us help our students. For more information, visit bismarckbucks.com/scholarship or call 701-595-0771.
You know, we still have a good one. It's just that it isn't going to be for much longer. I've known Terry Steinwand for a long time, and he's finally retiring. He said, you know what? I get to enjoy retirement too. And there's no question in my mind what he's going to do with a lot of that retirement because the man loves the outdoors. July 31st is going to be his last day. Terry Steinwand has been the boss, the director of North Dakota Game and Fish for a lot of years. Terry, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Hey, glad to be here, Joel, and thanks for having me on. Like you said, we've known each other for a long, long time. Haven't always agreed on everything, but we still walk away friends, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I've enjoyed is I've had legislators tell me, you know, we don't agree on anything, but I like you, we can walk away friends, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, serving on the Senate Natural Resource Committee for most all of those years, except when I went on appropriations, it was a blast. Watching you and your staff come in and explain what your goals were and how you were working for, you know, the fishermen and the hunters and just the people that like to be outdoors. You guys were truly pros, and I think that's going to continue just because of, you know, what you've really done to set as an example, Terry.
Well, you're exactly right, Joel. You know, the director gets an awful lot of credit, gets a lot of blame at times too, but I tell you what, the credit goes to the fantastic staff at Game and Fish. You know, I've been asked in the past, well, what's your legacy? I said, I never came into this job wanting to leave or having the goal of leaving a legacy, but if I could pick one thing, I would say it's the staff that I've hired to help lead this department. They are fantastic. They're as passionate as anybody I know about the resource, and they're still going to be here. So that's the positive part for whoever succeeds me.
So, you know, when you take a look back and you say, okay, these are some of the things we went through in North Dakota during my tenure as director. give people some examples how one day it's this and the next day you're really dealing with that.
Yeah, I've thought about this actually a lot in the last couple of years. I blame this job for me developing ADD, because you get about 5 to 15 minutes on a subject and boy, you got to move to something else, and it's almost going like first overdrive sometimes, and every once in a while you grind the gears though too, that man, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. But some of the things, and it's not quite that quickly, but when I first became director in 2006, we had 3.2 million acres of CRP, some mild winters. Our pheasant population was doing fantastic. Our deer population was actually growing too fast for us. And again, listening to staff, which I've always done, we went from takes you 15 minutes to get a limit of pheasants to holy smokes, I don't even get a limit in a whole day now, because we're down to about 1 million acres of CRP. We've had some couple tough winters back in 2009, 10, 11 in there. So those have been some tough times. People tend to remember, and I say people, that's us included, tend to remember, hey, this is the best times. It should always be like that. One thing about wildlife and fish population, they fluctuate up and down. And hopefully we're on the upswing again here now, because the people working in this department have worked hard to move it in that direction.
See, to me, one of the things that I think you've done that I try to remind people that Game and Fish work so hard on is habitat and the availability for hunters to access that habitat. The PLOTS program, jumps right out at me as a perfect example. You're going to like this. On my way to work today, right? So I've got some wood duck nests that I put up on trees. I get up in the morning and I'm up usually before light comes out, and I see the wood ducks fly in. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then I look out on the lake, because I live by a little lake, and I'm seeing a mallard. So seeing that, then I hit the road. I see a rooster pheasant by a slough. Then I get by a shelter belt and I saw pheasants, or I saw deer. I mean, how can you have a better morning than that, Terry?
No, exactly. My sister and I inherited a farm. When my parents passed away, and that same type of story, and that's actually what got me thinking I need to set a date here. It's been a couple of weeks ago. I stayed overnight. I'd actually walked the pasture the night before and heard pheasant crow, and I killdeers singing, geese honking overboard, and I come walking around the tree row and I see a couple deer, and I said, wow, it just doesn't get any better than this. And it took me back to the days when I was a kid shooting frogs in the slough behind the barn, or picking up rocks. What kind of bugs are under there? So I want to enjoy that. I want to teach my grandkids that I feel bad for my own children, because I sometimes miss their birthdays because I was out working. But that's not just me. That's other people within the department too, that I want to teach my grandchildren to love the outdoors as much as
I have to throw this at you as well. And take it as a compliment it's meant to be. Not everyone in Game and Fish is sent to be out in the public speaking and promoting, okay? Some of those individuals are out there to make sure that you're not over your limit. And some of those wardens are out there to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do, in terms of what sportsmen and sportswomen do. Every time I got stopped and checked, and you're gonna, when you're out hunting as much as I am, you're gonna get stopped and checked. And when you're on a lake fishing or doing recreation, riding around on a pontoon, you're gonna get stopped and checked. Your staff was nothing but polite. And I think that matters a lot, because it sets the right tone for when you might have to sign the bottom of that document because you don't have your license signed or whatever. I mean, they handled it in such a professional way, and I think that shines on you, Terry. It really does.
And I'm glad to hear that, Joel. And I will defend our enforcement till the day I die, because they have a very difficult job. And if you get stopped, they're just checking to make sure, do you have the appropriate license? It may be a safety issue if you're out in the pontoon on a lake, and they're not doing it because they want to pick on Joel Heitkamp. They want to make sure Joel Heitkamp's safe. And they're not just picking on an individual. They're helping all the public that loves the same thing we do in North Dakota to make sure there is that equitable distribution, that you're not shooting a deer at night, you're not having an over limit of pheasants or whatever it might be. So they're not doing it personally, and that's why they are so professional. And unfortunately, our wardens and law enforcement in general get that reaction that, holy smoke, they're just out to pick on me. No, they're not. They're really not. We don't have any bad apples, I don't believe. Now, law enforcement, maybe there are some here and there, but don't paint them all with the same brush, because they do a tremendous job.
Well, I can tell you this, your numbers are going to continue to increase, because I know you're selling more licenses and more people are enjoying the outdoors. I've got 6 grandkids. All of them have been in a fishing boat except for one. And as soon as she gets old enough, I'm sure she's going to be as well. So there's 6 more, or at least 5 more licenses that I know you're going to sell. Terry, I was going to call you a quitter in this interview, because I'm not going to like it, the fact that you're leaving, but you never have quit. So I appreciate it. Thanks for what you've done for North Dakota and for us sportsmen. I really appreciate it a lot.
Well, thank you, Joel. You don't know how much that means to me. It means a lot coming from you. And even though I'm quitting the full-time paying job, it doesn't mean I'm gonna disappear. I'm probably gonna be for a little while, unless you can find me in a boat on the lake someplace. But there'll come a point in time where you're gonna hear the name again, and hopefully in a good point. But it's gonna be for the resource. I guarantee you that.
You bet. Thank you for what you did for North Dakota. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel.
Don't ever forget, ladies and gentlemen, that agency, Game and Fish, isn't funded by taxpayer dollars. It's funded by your license. So keep that in mind as well. And they've been very reasonable on licenses. When we come back, some closing comments. I want to get a chance to talk to you about the Israeli-Palestinian basically war, what's going on. So stick around. We're going to close out down the road right after this.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you can pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
You know, it's a real honor to be on Beck News and be on Beck TV. The job that Beck does in being local is one of the reasons that when I got a call and they said, would you be willing to take a look at this? It's one of the reasons I took the call and took the meeting. But I have another job as well, and that job is in radio, and most of you know that. Tomorrow, I won't be here. I'll be back on Friday, but I'm going to be in Tulna because we do these events where we go out and we have coffee with KFGO. So if you're in that area, stop by. Love to get a chance to meet you and talk about Beck News as well. Want to visit about what's going on between Hamas and Israel, the Palestinians and Israel. You know, there's a lot of different presidents that have tried to bring peace to the Middle East. And when we are dead and buried, there's going to be a lot more presidents that are going to try to bring peace to the Middle East. The most you can do, in my personal opinion, is try to make it so that what's going on today isn't going on tomorrow. You know, the Palestinian people are never going to accept what Israel represents. They're never going to do that. They feel their land has been taken from them. The Israelis are never going to acquiesce as well. And so the Israelis are bigger, they're stronger, so what do? At some point, if you're Israel, you've got to say, look, the message has been sent, the goal has been reached this time, and hopefully what we've done will deter them again from doing anything. At some point, you got to do that. I know that President Biden, through all news reports today, has told Prime Minister Netanyahu that he needs to have a ceasefire. I think he needs to have a ceasefire. You know, President Trump and his family said they brought peace to the Middle East. Bill Clinton said he brought peace to the Middle East. That's two different parties, and neither one did. Folks, it's been good riding with you. We'll see you down the trail.